Hello, welcome to Walk in the Park. My name is Tony Ingram, and this is October 26th. This is recorded on our episode 149. If you want to see all of my shows, you can go to my video blog at walkinthepark.tv and see all our shows. This is recorded in Ithaca, New York, and Pegasus Studios, public access television, shown on Channel 13. So if you go to my blog, you can see the schedule. Okay, this title of this show is Fall and Falls. So I'm going to show you a lot of pictures from this month, October, which is so beautiful in so many ways. And we're going to start off with an event in Upper Robert H. Treman State Park. Oh, it looks a little like me. And I was playing on October, I think this was 7th. Let's see. I think it was October 7th. October 15th, sorry. Robert H. Treman State Park Heritage Day, and as a member and officer of the Friends of Robert H. Treman State Park, I'm dressed up as a gentleman named Henry Teeter, who was the proprietor of the Enfield Falls Hotel, which is no longer there. It was built in around 1853 and burned down sometime around 1906, but it was probably the thing that led to the creation of the state park, because it was a feature of a little hamlet up there called the Hamlet of Enfield Falls in what's now the Upper Park, where people would go and stay in the hotel and then go visit the falls. So Robert Treman came along in the early 1900s and his wife Laura, and they bought the property and turned it into a state park. But for the last, 18 years or so, since 1998, I guess, 18 years, Cornell archaeologists under the direction of Dr. Shireen Bauer have been excavating the site of the old hamlet. There they are, working behind me there on the what they call the midden, one of the middens, or the trash dump for the hotel, and finding all kinds of interesting things that give us information about the site. There are a number of buildings that have been excavated. The buildings were all raised in the early part of the 20th century. Those that hadn't already disappeared, like the hotel. And they, so now she's been doing archaeology in there, learning a lot about it. The hotel probably looks something like this. We don't have a photograph. Some of the other buildings we have photographs of, but we know there is a photograph of the hotel, and we've searched for it and even put out a reward for it, but no one has found it. But this is a hotel in Cooperstown, New York, probably associated with the Farmers Museum. And the Enfield Falls Hotel looked like this, with a two-story porch, balcony, which wrapped around actually three sides. So it was more actually bigger than this hotel, but the same footprint as this one in Cooperstown. So you can go on what's called an archaeology walking tour, and what you see behind the hotel sign here are stones that lay out the footprint of the hotel. Okay, so the other thing we did on Heritage Day was have tours of the mill, the old mill. This is one of the two buildings remaining from the hamlet of Enfield Falls. And this mill has 4 floors, and you look at it, this is a photoshopped cutaway of the mill made by Josh Teeter, who works as an environmental educator for the Finger Lakes State Parks, a position I was in for many years before I retired. So you can visit the 4 floors of the old mill. Well, you can't now, it's closed for the winter, but next spring. On that day, we were giving tours. This was, I think, probably about the last weekend that the mill was open. They only have the mill open when there's someone staffing the gate and charging money, so that it can be supervised, because we don't want anything to happen to that building. So Monica Howland, who is the president of the Friends of Robert H. Treman State Park, is giving a tour of the mill to some visitors. And then this gentleman, Bruce Halpern, is also in the Friends of Robert H. Treman State Park. He is one of the trustees, and he is giving a tour of the adjacent Civilian Conservation Corps Museum. There was a big CCC camp in the mill. If you look on the right-hand side of the mill building there's a little building that is where the CCC museum is. You can enter it from inside the mill. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at a few pictures of fall in the upper gorge at Treman. Before we had the rain just this past week, it was still pretty dry. But here we are in the gorge in upper Treman, looking from just above Lucifer Falls downstream, down Enfield Glen. Pretty dramatic spot. Most of us have seen this, but maybe you haven't seen it lately. See, there's not much water on it. We had the drought, ran until just this last week, and I don't know what the water tables are doing, but probably helped a lot by the several inches of rain we had. But so the waterfall is going to be much more than it is now, but still interesting stuff. Now, look, when this is looking down at the base of the falls, you can see just a little bit of the waterfall at the top of your screen. Maybe that will show. But I was interested in the straight lines of the rocks. These are caused by what are called joints in the rocks, which were formed when these rocks were all put under tremendous pressure during mountain building times. And you can see a rectangular slab of rock almost in the center of the picture, and that caught my eye because they tend to break off in pieces like this, defined by the pre-existing joint cracks. And this just was another scene of a pool that was also defined by joint cracks. But here is some nice maple leaves. I think that might be mountain maple in the gorge. And finally, one of the most famous photographs in the gorge, in the park actually, is this view in the beginning of the upper gorge from the upper park. The upper park is a gentle area. The stream flows along, and then it enters the rock gorge, which is a very interesting spot. So with the footbridge over there, so very photogenic. So now we're going to go up in the air, and we're going to look at some photographs taken by local photographer Bill Hecht, who flies around a lot and takes aerial photographs. He also has a drone he uses. So we're actually looking at Robert H. Treman State Park, and in the lower left is the lower end of the Enfield Glen, which is the name of the gorge in Robert Treman State Park. And then we'll swing around, and now you can see in the center of the picture, angling up to the upper left, that is the gorge. And it's a couple of miles long, and it's one of the most beautiful gorges in the area. Very lush, lots of old forest in there, a really nice walk. I'm sure you've done it. So let's take a look at this next picture, looking straight on now, looking up the gorge from the east, looking west up Enfield Glen. So that's pretty cool. So now we're going to go take a look at Ithaca Falls. Ithaca Falls has been closed. The area around Ithaca Falls has been closed for much of the summer as they rebuilt what's called the Lake Street Bridge, which is the road that crosses Fall Creek just downstream from the falls, 100 yards downstream from the falls. And it's also the access. Right there's a little park right next to the bridge and the end of the Fall Creek, the end of the gorge, where you then can enter the short path that goes into the falls. So all of that area has been redone, the bridge and that little park there, and it was officially reopened. I think that was on October 7th. So that's actually earlier than the Heritage Day pictures I was showing you. So let me get that up here. That was October 7th. Yeah, October 7th was the reopening, dedication of Ithaca Falls, and dedication of the bridge and so forth. So we're going to take a look at that. It's kind of a neat little story and scene. So stand by.
It's asphalt with a chip seal top to it.
Yep. You don't want to get mixed in with
Over there?
I was driving.
I'm 48.
my neighbor Haley. She's living downtown.
How are you?
It's all right.
This is a new park that we built, and we're going to cut a ribbon. Have you ever been to a ribbon cutting? No. Do you know why we cut a ribbon? Yeah, me neither. But we do it. We do it so that we can let the whole community know they can come and enjoy the park. So I'm going to say a few words, and then a couple other people are going to talk. And when it's time to cut the ribbon, would you be willing to help me hold the ribbon?
Yeah!
So when it's time, I'm going to come and ask you, okay? Okay. Give me a few minutes. Give me a few minutes.
There you go. I'm so excited.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is... Good morning, everyone. My name is Savante Myrick. I'm the mayor of the city of Ithaca, and it is my pleasure to be here to dedicate this piece of infrastructure. And I'm really pleased to be here because we don't often dedicate bridges, and I think we should. Because just about every year, the city of Ithaca's Department of Public Works and our bridge engineer, Ediso in particular, pulls off something that in America in 2016 is pretty remarkable. And that is, we replace just about one bridge every year. We hear a lot of talk about how our roads are crumbling, our parking garages, our bridges all over the country. And in Ithaca, a very small city, we've got, how many bridges do we have?
35.
25 bridges. 35 bridges. And a city of only 30,000 people. But our maintenance, our upkeep, and our replacement is incredible. And I think it shows a dedication, the kind of unusual dedication that's really embodied in this project. And so why do I say it's unusual? It's unusual, and at the risk of embarrassing Ediso and engineers everywhere, engineers often, in my experience, care more about the infrastructure than the people it serves. Most engineers that I meet, they would love to build a bridge and then cordon it off from the public so that it lasts forever. And you often have to explain to them the reason you built the bridge is so that people can get from one side of it to the other. Never had to explain that to Ediso. In fact, he did something that I've never seen done in my, I guess, 9 years in office now, which is that he proposed aesthetic improvements. And not just small aesthetic improvements. He said, well, you know, we're replacing this bridge. We noticed that a lot of people like to get to the falls. We noticed that the area around the falls really could use a facelift. So he did, which is no small thing. He worked with the City of Ithaca's Common Council directly, the Planning Board, the Board of Public Works, the Natural Areas Commission, the Conservation Advisory Commission, the Disability Advisory Council. Have I missed anybody? And the Parks Commission, thank you, the Parks Commission. So it's not like he just had this idea and he drew it up. He worked through months and months of process and negotiating. One board said they wanted the fence to look this way, the other board said the exact opposite, the third board said something else. He negotiated this and he never quit. And he delivered something to us that I think enhances our connection to nature while still improving our connectivity. So not only is it useful, but it's beautiful. So I hope you'll join me in thanking our bridge engineer, Ediso. I want to say too that funding for the park especially came from a handful of sources. First, I want to thank the Tompkins County Tourism Bureau, recognizing that the falls are one of the most important tourist aspects in our city, so they help contribute to the park improvements. But also 3 different funding sources related to the city of Ithaca. The Common Council, of course, Duxon is here from the 2nd Ward, the sidewalk repair budget, and the Ithaca Urban Renewal Agency all help contribute to this. And so I'd like to ask a Common Council person who lives in this neighborhood, who fought for this improvement in this project, is here. I'd like to ask Alderperson Deborah Molinoff to stand.
There's one last group that we didn't thank in that long list of thank yous, and that's the public. What is really, in my opinion, the best thing about this particular project is that we spent hours and hours in many meetings, and we heard from a lot of residents. There was competing ideas about what this natural area should be, and I think good government and good engagement from citizens leads us to something that I think is a really lovely balance that preserves the natural area of the falls, preserves the people living in this neighborhood that see tourists coming through the neighborhood and visiting the falls, and found a really lovely balance between everybody's concerns for this iconic area that we all love to visit. We are just so very lucky to have a city that has this kind of beauty in it, and it makes our city very unique. And I'm so very proud of all of the people that came forward and said, well, what if we did this and what if we did that? It's one of the only issues where I feel like every single person was working towards consensus on what would be the absolute best for this place. And I'm very proud of what Adisu and the city staff have done. And I'm very proud that they took the time to listen to all of us that were concerned that we would create something that would eliminate the natural beauty of the Ithaca Falls. So thank you to everyone for doing that.
Next, I just want to introduce the leader of this engineering department that is so creative and so hardworking. Please welcome our senior engineer, director of engineering, Tim Lowe.
Just a few words, my throat's a little sore, but I again want to thank Adisu, our project manager, who ran an excellent project here on time and on budget. Our consulting engineers, Delta Engineering, and landscape architects, Trowbridge Wolf Michaels, who contributed to design both on bridge and on the park area. And another successful project with our contractor, Economy Paving, who again brought the bridge in at a good price and on schedule. So a good team all around. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and before we cut this ribbon, I want to thank that team again. Delta, Trowbridge, Economy Paving. All local folks, all worked with us in minute detail, and all did a great job. Yes. Adisu, would you like to say a few words?
Oh, no, I'm good.
No, you sure? now that was the okay. Good. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Do you want to help me? So what you do is help hold the ribbon.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I will take you and you and you. Okay, but if you come and hold the ribbon, you might be in the newspaper. Is that true? Simon, is that
Make
true?
sure they don't walk in.
Yeah. Okay, come around. Come.
That way.
That way.
Look at all these lovely plants.
Adisu, back here. Come. So everybody grab a little piece, okay?
Come on, guys. Here we go down this way.
You gotta get on this side.
Lots of room.
You gotta stand up my
There we
side,
go.
okay?
You want to be facing the camera, guys. Oh, you got it.
The ribbon, you said? I'll just raise it.
Hold it like this. Okay.
Come here, you right side.
Hold it like this. You want to be able to see the ribbon and cut the whole thing.
What grade are you guys in?
4.
Is it the best grade?
I might want to see different spots. That's going on TV.
Okay, are you holding it?
Oh, wow. What time?
She wants to cut the ribbon. You gotta be in it.
When you guys get home from school,
Maybe in
maybe in
4 years.
I'm watching this. I'm watching.
Everybody ready?
Wait, what channel?
Okay, you gotta look up and smile for the cameras, okay?
My grandpa.
I want to do a cave top on a camera.
We cut it.
Don't.
smarter people.
Yeah, so, yeah, great. It's good food. So.
Okay, so the falls are open. They've been open for a while now, and go on in there and enjoy them. And get in there before it gets too cold and icy and slippery with ice on the rocks. Okay, so those students were from Beverly J. Martin Elementary School in downtown Ithaca. So once again, you are watching Walk in the Park, walkinthepark.tv, my video blog where you can see this episode and all others. It took me a couple of days to get this one up online, but then you can stream all of my episodes from my website. Okay, now we're going to pop out of the county. We're going to go over to, I think it's Schuyler County, and look at, well, you see that little balloon there? That is a Finger Lakes Land Trust Preserve. Now on the left, the lake on the left is Seneca Lake, and then the upper right is Cayuga Lake, and you can see the sign that says Ithaca, the south end of Cayuga Lake, and Watkins Glen at the south end of Seneca Lake. And then just bottom center is a green area. That is the Connecticut Hill State Wildlife Management Area, and we may have a chance to look at some more pictures of that. But right now we're going to go to the where that marker indicates a land trust preserve, the Finger Lakes Land Trust Preserve. We're going to go to the Martin Nature Preserve. And I'm just going to read you a little bit from the website about the history of the Martin Nature Preserve. Once a Christmas tree farm, the Martin Nature Preserve still has an abundance of conifers on the property. You'll see a little bit of that. Named after two of their grandchildren whose father was from nearby Odessa. The preserve was donated by Jean and Joan Lane in November 1993. So this is, I like to get out to the Finger Lakes Land Trust Preserves because there's a lot of other places out there besides the popular ones in the state parks, and some of these preserves, I didn't even know existed until I looked them up. So it's fun to explore around. There's a lot more out there. They usually have trails on them, not all of them, but most of them have trails. This has one road that crosses the preserve, and there's a trail on the south side and a trail on the north side of the preserve. So let's go take a look. I've got a short video from the Martin Nature Preserve. I'm reading from the web page for the Martin Preserve of the Finger Lakes Land Trust. Not only did the Martin Preserve property prove to be a successful Christmas tree plantation, but naturally occurring trees have also thrived within this 110-acre forest. Populations of hemlock, yellow birch, white pine, white oak, and sugar maple are nearing the old growth stage of 150 years. Right on the bank of Catlin Mill Creek, which runs through the preserve, stretch the graceful limbs of a 300-year-old white oak. At about 5 feet in diameter, the ancient oak stands as testament to the beauty and strength of trees. Because of the extensive logging in the northeastern United States, trees like this one are rare and welcome sights. Okay, well, that's all we have time for today, so maybe you can get out to one of those Finger Lakes Land Trust preserves. So thanks for joining me, and we'll have a new show next week.